Hello, my name is Rose Riley, and I'm a member of the League of Women Voters of Washtenaw County. Welcome to our online candidate forum for the November 5th general election. The League is a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization that promotes voter education and participation, and we host candidate forums to help voters make informed choices. Now, let's hear from the candidates.
Good evening. My name is Lynn Komansky, and I will moderate the forum tonight. It's my honor to introduce 3 of the 6 nonpartisan candidates running in the November general election for the Ann Arbor Public Schools Board of Education. We have Megan Kanous, Eric Sturgis, and Leslie Wilkins. The remaining 3 candidates will participate in a separate, identical forum, thereby giving all candidates adequate time to respond to questions. Thank you, candidates, for agreeing to participate in this forum. We are now ready for your opening statement, and I will start with Ms. Kanous.
Hi, my name is Megan Kanous. Thank you very much for having us here and giving us the opportunity to speak this evening. I am a current Ann Arbor public school parent with a kiddo in elementary and in middle school right now. I have served in the schools as a PTO chair, as our PTO council rep, and a volunteer as a room parent, various events for our community events. And I've also been a Girl Scout leader that's led 2 troops through their elementary school years at my daughter's elementary school. I'm proud to say that I've been endorsed by the AAEA, which is our teachers union, as well as an organized group of past board trustees called Better Boards, Better Schools, because they represent 2 major stakeholders in our education system. And I think it's great that they've given me a vote of confidence in fulfilling a role on the board.
Thank you, Ms. Kanous. Now, Mr. Sturgis, may we have your opening statement?
Yes, thank you for having us, and thank you, Megan and Leslie, for being here. My name is Eric Sturgis. I'm an Ann Arbor Public School grad, Northside Elementary, Clegg Middle School, and a proud Huron River rat. I have my master's degree from Eastern Michigan University in sports administration. I have been involved in the schools since I was 16 years old when we started with the campaign to build the new high school, which I was very supportive of. And that new high school skyline, I have worked at as a tennis coach. I also have been a substitute teacher and sub-parapro in the district, and feel that my experience coaching, teaching, as well as being an Ann Arbor Public Schools grad gives me some great knowledge of what works well in the district, what doesn't, and I look forward to this forum, and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sturgis. And finally, may we have your opening statement, Ms. Wilkins?
I am Leslie Wilkins. I'm grateful for this opportunity. I'm a qualified, calm, compassionate, and thoughtful long-term Ann Arbor Public Schools parent. My kids went through Carpenter and then Scarlett and then Huron High School. Serving on as a trustee has been on my heart for a long time. I volunteered on my kids' elementary school and middle school PTOs for 7 years, serving as vice president of the middle school board for 3 years. Most recently, I've served on the PTO Council and their equity committee, and I loved all that work, advocating for students and teachers at Title I schools specifically. And now I want to use my business sense, analytical skills, team player attitude, and life experiences to have a positive impact district-wide. I want to ensure that the district prioritizes success and happiness for all students, not just the white, straight, neurotypical, upper middle class kids who are the easiest to serve. I'm excited to do the hard work necessary to right-size the district's budget, prioritize our educators' needs, and restore trust in our board and administration. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wilkins. Thank you, candidates, again. And now to the questions. We will start with Mr. Sturgis for the first question. And the first question is on public trust. What steps would you take with your fellow trustees to build back trust in the board's work following the recent $14 million budget deficit that caused teachers and staff to be laid off?
Well, thank you for this question. I think it's really important. Number one, we have to be transparent. We have to inform the public of decisions that we're making and of what's going on in the school buildings. And I think that that has not been done. But I also think that we, as a group of people, need to work together. We don't have to like each other necessarily, but we have to work together as a team. And, you know, our goal should be what's best for the students, what's best for the teachers, and what's best for the district. And as a coach, I've had to, you know, do this where you put different players in different positions in different places, and there's hard feelings. You have to leave your personal feelings at the door when you come to the meeting, and you have to focus on what's best. And, you know, listening to others is really important, and taking suggestions, and not just, you know, pushing your agenda, but also looking at where we can compromise on things, where we can work together. And so I think this is a huge issue. I've heard it from a lot of people. But what I would like to see is, you know, the board members develop a better relationship, whether outside, you know, just maybe having coffee together, and not even talking about board stuff, but just getting to know each other. And, you know, Megan and I have done that. I've done that with Leslie, and I think that's important because you want to be able to work well with your fellow comrades. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sturgis. Same question, Ms. Wilkins.
Yes, we definitely have some work to do to reestablish trust with our community. And I think transparency will be a big part of that. That's going to take some hard work. There are some hard decisions that need to be made. And I think showing our work as board members, so not just showing up with decisions that seem to have already been discussed and decided on, but actually showing how we got to those decisions and all the factors that went into those decisions. So our communities can know, oh, they did ask about us. Our different groups can know that we did ask about how this would affect special needs students or how this would affect our Title I schools. So we're showing our work and showing that we did take all of these things into consideration when we're making those decisions. I think that'll go a long way toward reestablishing that trust. As far as working together with members of the board, we should all be coming at this from a position of mutual respect for one another. So we can all work together to collaborate to get we all have the same goal in mind, is to make it so that our students can thrive. And if we keep that main goal at the top of mind and work together, like I said, from a sense of mutual trust, mutual respect, and do it with honesty, then I think that'll go far.
Thank you, Ms. Wilkins. And same question, Ms. Kanous.
So how do we build trust back within our district? It's going to take a lot of communication and collaboration between all of the stakeholders. And again, keeping that, you know, big picture goal in mind. We'll want to work with our teachers, with our administrators, and with our families to, first of all, set forth a strategic plan for the future of our for the future of our school district, as well as the everyday decisions that the administration is bringing to us in the public facing board meetings, as well as the subcommittee meetings, sharing out our findings with each other as board members, respecting the opinions if they are different, letting the community know if some hard decisions are going to be made, and being upfront about those tough conversations that we're going to have, and be able to listen to the community feedback about those, and just letting the community see a dynamic of a board that is functional and is working well, to get the job done and staying on task. I think will put a lot of faith back and trust within the board at large.
Thank you, Ms. Kanous. We're going to move on to question number 2, and I'll be starting with Ms. Wilkins for this one. This is on student enrollment. The district's 2023 student enrollment report shows that the number of students in Ann Arbor Public Schools has declined in each of the last 5 years. In each of those years, significantly more students transferred out of Ann Arbor Public Schools to private schools than transferred in from private schools. Does this pattern indicate a need for changes in Ann Arbor Public Schools? And Ms. Wilkins, to you first.
Okay, there's a lot in there. This is an important question. Does it ask for a change in the schools? I don't know if it asks for a change in the schools so much as a change in how we're operating the schools. So I think we've got a lot of fantastic programs, and that's how we have increased our enrollment in previous years when other school districts were not increasing. Before COVID, our enrollment was increasing because of our international baccalaureate programs, because of our fantastic music programs, things like that, that Ann Arbor schools can offer students that no other schools can. So I don't think those programs should change, but the way we're running some of the systems in the schools that needs to be improved. So again, back to our special education families, I know that those are some of the families that have transferred out because they're not getting well served in Ann Arbor schools. So we need to pay more attention and figure out how to serve those kids more. There are families of color that have transferred out because they were not served well by our district. There were instances of systemic racism that affected them enough to leave our schools, and that's not good enough. So the way we're handling our schools needs to change, but the schools themselves are fantastic.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Wilkins. To you, Ms. Kanous.
Yeah, thank you for asking. Whether it's a specific, group of students that we're trying to get back, I would agree that some of the changes that have happened over the past 5 years are why we lost quite a few. As well as just anecdotally, I know that there were some school of choice kids that ended up going to their own home schools, where they might have been outside of the district before because they met so many new friends in their neighborhoods, and that became their community. They wanted to go to school there, which is great. I will also say that losing our aftercare and before care programs that we had been known for also caused quite a few parents to leave and find other options with schools that were offering those services to help our families who are not able to be there right as the bell rings and are not able to find another option within Ann Arbor to get that their kid can get to. As of now, we still don't have all of the elementary schools serviced with aftercare programs, and but the district is working on it. And I look forward to seeing the numbers that we should after this year's enrollment. Count day is coming up, but I know that preliminary numbers the board is asking for now, so we can see if any of the changes that we've addressed already, like our summer school programs, changes in our special education department that we've made are bringing students and families back to Ann Arbor Public Schools.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Kanous. And Mr. Sturgis, same question.
Yes, I think Leslie and Megan both said a lot of very important things, and I agree with everything they've said. One thing I would add that I think has hurt enrollment was COVID and the online learning. I think there were people who left the district because they did not want online learning. They wanted in-person learning. I think there's been a lot of issues in special education, lack of support, when it comes to parapros, when it comes to teachers' aides. And I think that has caused people to leave. I think, as Leslie mentioned, there are a lot of Black families that have left the district for different reasons, but I think one of the overarching reasons is the systemic racism that exists in any school district. But we're not seeing the achievement gap narrowing. We are getting better on equity. There's an equity committee now, but again, I think there's a lot of room for improvement. I, as well as Megan said, would like to see the numbers this year, and we're starting to bring back the aftercares, which is good. But like this year, we lost some of the foreign language in the elementary schools, and I know that was a big thing for certain families. There were a lot of cuts to music, and that is big for certain families. So I think going forward, we need to do our best to service those underrepresented groups in the district.
Thank you, Mr. Sturgis. We're going to move on to question number 3. And this question is about fiscal expertise, and it will go to Ms. Kanous first. The district has a $300 million annual operating budget and a $90 million annual capital budget. What experience or education prepares you to oversee public finances of this magnitude?
That's a great question. So my previous background, or my professional background, is in retail and product management and sales forecasts and plans, and hitting those expectations and goals, and reporting up and monitoring your budget on a quarterly basis with the goals that you've been tasked to achieve, or said that you would achieve from the first place. The district is huge. There are so many different departments, but we do know that teachers and our staff make up about 80% of that general fund. So it's really important that we are monitoring our teacher population and the promises that we've made to them in terms of their salaries. It's important for any other programs that we have that could be coming out of the general fund as well, that we're monitoring those and really watching the funds that are given to us on an annual basis from the state or at the federal level. Those federal grants, I believe, are only reviewed once a year and audited once a year, but we should really, and I'm sure the board will, even the current board right now, is looking at that budget on a much more regular basis and staying on top of that. It is our responsibility to not just look at what's presented, but to also dive deep and make sure that we are looking and forecasting out, what could be going away. For instance, the special education millage that is coming up, if we don't pass that in Washtenaw County this November, then that money for those services will be taken out of the general fund, and we don't want that to happen.
Thank you, Ms. Kanous. To Mr. Sturgis next, same question.
Yeah, and this is a great question. I have experience working with budgets. Number one, I was a summer club tennis director where I was responsible for collecting payments for all of the participants and putting together a budget, hiring staff. So, I would say that's on a much less scale than the budget that Ann Arbor Public Schools faces. I've also, as a college tennis coach, had budgets and had to, monitor my budget throughout the year. And I think that that's something that's really important, is monitoring the budget throughout the year, forecasting for the future, but then also checking that. And, if you're forecasting for a certain enrollment, we need to check that enrollment is going to exist. I also would say, that I think it's very important for us to make sure that teachers are supported, because a lot of teachers have been promised stuff and that has not happened. And I think we as a board need to hold to our word as in regards to supporting teachers. But I think overall with the budget, I think my experience in handling others will help me, and I'm always willing to learn and ask questions, and I think that will serve us well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sturgis. And Ms. Wilkins, same question.
Can you repeat just the end of the actual question part of this, please?
Yes. The district has a $300 million annual operating budget and $90 million annual capital budget. What experience or education prepares you to oversee public finances of this magnitude?
Thank you. Well, I have bachelor's degrees in music and psychology from U of M. I do have an MBA. I've been a marketing and sales executive at the same company for 16 years. So my MBA was more focused on marketing than budgets, although there was certainly all of the budgeting and corporate and accounting and statistics and all that stuff to go with it. But my before the current job that I have, I was actually working at Standard & Poor's in New York on Wall Street as a financial analyst and on the rating side of things. So my job involved looking at a certain situation. It was municipal rating, so it was small cities and towns and things like that, looking at their financial situation and seeing what kind of rating they should get based on their fiscal health. And I didn't get the chance to do that job for very long before I moved back to Michigan. But I did get a lot of practice in asking hard questions. My colleagues were probably annoyed with me for all of the questions that I asked because I was learning the position. So, they'd come up with these numbers and I'd say, okay, well, what does that actually mean? Or what is that going to mean 2 years from now? Or what's that going to mean for this part of the budget? And if you add this part, what's it going to mean over here? So I don't know if you'd call it an expertise, but my practice is to ask those hard questions and try to take it 2 steps further. So making sure that the decisions that are made as far as the budget is concerned, making sure that we know exactly how that's going to impact our teachers, our various schools, our various communities, our students in certain groups. So that's what I hope to do.
Thank you, Ms. Wilkins. We're going to move on to question number 4, which is about collaboration. And we've touched a little on this in a couple of the other questions, but this specifically gets to skills that you think you can bring to the table. This question will go to Mr. Sturgis first. And it is, what skills do you possess and what steps would you take to improve collaborative and effective school board decision-making?
Yes, that's a great question. And one skill that I bring to the table is that I like to listen. I like to hear everyone's ideas. I may come into it with my opinion, but I have changed my opinion after listening to people in the past. So I think that's number one, listening. Number two is that I think having the discussions at the board meeting in public where everyone can hear us, everyone hears the discussion. We may get input from somebody that we didn't necessarily ask for, but that gives us more information. So bringing as many of the groups into the discussion as we can. I think the other thing I would say, with collaboration, as I've said, I've managed, a tennis team. I managed, 150 kids in a summer program, and you have to be confident, but also be honest, respectful, and voice your opinion based on facts and based on data. And I think collaborating starts with the willingness to listen. And I think that right now on the board, people jump to, here's my opinion, rather than let's hear what somebody else says, and then let's, see how we can figure out a middle ground. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sturgis. Ms. Wilkins, same question.
Thank you. It is an important, this collaboration piece, because I think that's something that the board itself can improve on. We want to get to a point where we're all voting. It's not so much of a split vote every time as more people on one side or the other. I agree with what Eric touched on about listening to our different stakeholders in different communities and making sure that those voices are heard and brought to the board table as we make those decisions. And my experience, along with my work on school PTOs, I've volunteered on various nonprofit boards for the last 10 years, so more than 10 years. So I have a lot of boardroom experience, a lot of, working with small groups, working with teams to come up with ways to solve problems together, and working with folks from all kinds of different walks of life and different backgrounds, different levels of expertise in different areas. I think another thing that the board can do well, if they're intentional about it, is trusting experts. So if there is someone on the board with more financial expertise, listening to that person and having their opinion. If there's someone who has experience with the social emotional learning aspect, let's listen to those experts. And let's also bring in other experts so that we can get those opinions and make really well-informed decisions that's going to make everyone feel better about being there.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Wilkins. And finally, Ms. Kanous. Go ahead.
So the collaboration skills that I would bring to the table so that we can, make decisions together is, and what my background is in looking at the big picture, and then also the impact, not just the first impact, but those second, third, and fourth of the decisions that we are going to make, because a lot of these decisions that the board is making now can impact us 30 years from now. For for instance, like deciding whether or not to hang on to certain land or buildings, and those that we're really going to have to be thoughtful and mindful about. So I would be bringing that perspective to the board. I would also invite experts, whether it's within my own circle, ask my fellow board colleagues for their insight, or if they have any connections or experts or just community stakeholders that they think that we should be reaching out to. And then again, doing the legwork outside of those public board meetings and then sharing it with the trustees, what we've learned with each other. With if you're keeping it within the subcommittee meetings, still letting our other trustees outside of the subcommittee meetings knowing what we've learned from the experts, and then sharing that with the public within the public facing meetings or via our president or secretary, so that they can know the findings. And again, it's a little bit more transparent in terms of why we're making the decisions that we are and the impacts that they can have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kanous. We're going to switch up and talk a little bit about school safety next. Ms. Wilkins, you will be the first one that we asked to answer this question. So what specific steps, if any, should be taken to improve school safety in the Ann Arbor School District? Do you agree with the school board's 2012 decision to eliminate police liaison officers at the high schools?
Specific steps for safety. I want to talk about, safety, we can go a number of different ways. So I guess the resource officers decision, first of all, I do agree with that decision to remove them from the high schools. I also support having Ann Arbor schools is in a great situation with the police department, where the resource officers that are present at some of the other schools, they are chosen by the school district. So it's not, we don't say, send us a couple of police officers, please. We get to hand pick those officers, those actual human beings that are going to be interacting with our kids. So I'm grateful for that special situation, that special arrangement that we've got with them. As far as I want to talk a little bit about kids feeling safe when they feel like they're included, when they feel like they are valued. And representation goes a long way for that. So students in various communities, historically underrepresented communities, can be seeing themselves reflected in curriculum, in the staff, in extracurricular activities that are going on, things like that. That's going to help those students feel safe. That's going to help with safety. I'm excited about our continued capital programs through the bond that will help with outdoor safety issues, everything from buildings and deteriorating staircases and things like that are being improved. So I think monitoring those and making sure that we're making the right decisions for that kind of thing as well.
Thank you, Ms. Wilkins. Ms. Kanous, you're next.
Thank you. So again, yes, safety at our Ann Arbor Public Schools is covers a lot of different topics, because while there's the specific to I think, as you alluded to, to gun safety measures that we've put in place, and the ALICE training that all teachers go through, there, and all of the drills that our students take part in each year. We also have to think about the kids who have food allergies, and whether or not school can be a safe space for them. We have to think about the behavioral specialists that we just lost due to state funding that was taken away this year. And the fact that, like, currently our safety director within Ann Arbor Public Schools wears a lot of hats. So we have to think about how we can prioritize and help the district and help our superintendent and our current safety director prioritize help, making sure that we're keeping our eye on the ball, that the audits for all of our lockdown procedures are being followed, and that all of the training that we're supposed to be following, if it's in regards to gun safety, food safety, our special education families, and even, you know, as the traffic safety laws, right? As we're entering and exiting the parking lots, you know, that all of those are being followed. So it's a broad category, and it's something that really, as a board and as a community, we're going to help our district consider.
Hey, thank you, Ms. Kanous. Mr. Sturgis.
Yes, as Leslie and Megan have said a lot of great things that I agree with. I also do agree with the 2012 decision to remove the resource officers, public, from the high schools. What I would like to see, social workers, more social workers in the school that can help students with, you know, mental health issues, with any concerns they have, you know, with bullying, with safety. I think the capital projects are important, that we monitor those and that we continue to make sure that, you know, those are up to speed, and that what needs to be done is being done. But I also think that, you know, I've substitute taught in the district, and I think the safety is very good right now. We do need to help our safety director out for sure, but also, you know, we need to make sure that, you know, the underrepresented classes, the special education kids are feeling safe, and, you know, that's a lot, reaching out and listening to those communities about, you know, stuff they want to see. And when you're understaffed, naturally you also feel somewhat unsafe. So I think if we can get staffing back to the appropriate level in the special education, that would help a lot. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sturgis. And you may have seen the sign that our last question is now coming up. So I'm going to shift a little bit and just go down. I'm going to go down the list to priorities. I'm going to ask each of you to name what your top 2 priorities would be if elected. And we're going to start with Ms. Kanous.
Thank you. So my top 2 priorities are getting my head wrapped around our budget, and to look at all of the different categories that there are. As we're going through them on the public pages that are available, it's difficult for any layperson to the community to look at. I did go to the board retreat and took part in or listened to their financial training, and look forward to taking the financial training that is offered to all school board members, just to help as a guide us as soon as elected, if. The next thing that I would prioritize is a strategic plan and getting the community's input first and foremost, and all of our stakeholders. So our teachers, our community members that do not have children in Ann Arbor Public Schools, and our administrators, so that we can set forth what we should be prioritizing our budget dollars towards for the next 5 years. And so setting those goals would be my first priority.
Thank you, Ms. Kanous. Mr. Sturgis, to you.
Yeah, yes. A lot of what Megan said. You know, one for me would be fiscal responsibility, and that's, you know, making sure our budget is up to date and in line, and that we are planning for the future, that we are, you know, we have, let's say a 5-year plan or goal that we would like to see. I think the number 2, would be supporting teachers, students, and the community, and that's involving all of the those actors in decisions that we make, input, and really trying to find what is important to those stakeholders, and then figuring out ways where we can work through that in the budget. And I think, on that, I would also say that I think it's really important that we start trying to increase, teacher pay, and bringing, back some of the programs, getting into a fiscal spot where we can do that is something that I would like to see. And, it may mean making hard decisions, and that's something that, we're going to have to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sturgis. Ms. Wilkins.
Top 2 priorities. Number 1 is equity. I want to make sure all students, all families, and all communities are considered and consulted when policy decisions are made. Many of our students, as I said, especially those from historically excluded backgrounds, those with special needs, are not being well served in the district, and they vow to actively listen to their voices and bring their issues, needs, and suggestions to the board. And I'll also follow up to see what impact the action steps had on those students and their families. Number 2 priority is transparency. Ann Arbor Public Schools needs to prioritize rebuilding trust with the community, as we talked about, especially around the budget. I'm committed to doing this time-consuming, detailed work with honesty and compassion. I'll ask the hard questions to make sure the district is actually listening to what families are telling them. And like I said, I'll show my work so the community knows how decisions are made. And so I'm kept accountable for those decisions.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Wilkins. Now it's time for closing statements. We will begin again with alphabetical order, like we did with the opening ones. So Ms. Kanous, it's to you first.
Well, thank you again for the time to share out more about myself through this process. I've always enjoyed the information that the League of Women Voters puts out, and I use it each election year. I'm sure I'll be watching some of your other panels for some of our other races that are upcoming this November. I have enjoyed serving Ann Arbor Public Schools since 2017 in my role as a parent and chairperson on our PTO and PTO council rep. I have very much enjoyed this campaign, meeting the other board members and getting to know them, and hopefully working with some of them on the board. And I've really enjoyed getting to know more of the teachers outside of the schools that my kids are at, as well as the time that the current trustees and past trustees have given us, and as well as other stakeholders in the community. So thank you again, and I hope that I have some of your votes in November.
Thank you, Ms. Kanous. Mr. Sturgis.
Yes, thank you again to the League of Women Voters for putting this on. You guys always do a phenomenal job. I just want people to see that I think my unique background of being an Ann Arbor Public Schools grad, working in the schools and in different roles, will help me be a trustee that has the experience from different sides and can see, all the sides when making decisions. I also am somebody who's been very passionate about Ann Arbor Public Schools and want to keep us the best in the state. The last thing I want to say is, I think we have some really good candidates. I think either Megan or Leslie would be phenomenal trustees. So I think the voters have great choices to make, and I'd encourage you to go to my website, ericforschoolboard.com, and reach out to me if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sturgis. And finally, Ms. Wilkins.
Yes. I want to thank you again for this opportunity. I'm a big fan of Vote 411. It's my go-to resource for elections. I hope my answers today, along with the more comprehensive questionnaire we were asked to complete, convince voters to trust me to help make important decisions that impact our kids. I'm very proud of the Ann Arbor Teachers Union endorsement, which shows that they think I'll be able to have a positive influence. I'm committed to serve AAPS kids and their families by doing the hard work necessary so that all students are valued and supported in their school experience. And I'll maintain a focus of equity as I collaborate with my other board members and with our stakeholders to right-size the district's budget, prioritize our educators' needs, and restore trust in our board and administration so all our students can thrive. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wilkins. And thank you all again for participating in this valuable session.
The League thanks the candidates and volunteers who participated in today's forum and the community members who submitted questions. Please urge others to view our forums. And most importantly, please vote in the November 5th general election, either by absentee ballot or in person.